Good day to you, dear friends, and welcome back to our short sermon series or sermonettes, as you would call it. We are going to look at certain Bible verses and we're going to give you an understanding of it. And the one that we've been focusing on this week is from 2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 7. It's a very familiar verse for a lot of us. It's a memory verse for our lives. It's something that you always hear in whichever church you go to. Now, what does 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7 say? It says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind." This is the series that we are doing now. And you just heard in our introduction of part 1, you heard about the word fear. What were the different words that represent fear? It helps us to understand and get a view of what Paul was writing to Timothy. So for those of you who missed it, please go back and listen to part 1 and you can make sense of it even as we progress over this verse. So today my task is to open to you the second word that we hear, which is the word power. Now when you hear the word power, it's not electric power, it's not electricity, but here the word power, it represents an attribute of God. And I want to tell you about 4 words that describe power in the Greek language. Remember, we are in the New Testament, so the New Testament was written primarily in Greek. Now the word power, there are 4 words. Now what's the first word? The first word is dunamis. Now dunamis, it's mentioned 117 times in the New Testament. That's a big number. It shows us that this is a word that is essential in the life of a Christian, and it is what the gospel writers, the New Testament writers, were trying to plant into the believers of the early church. They wanted the believers to know that there is this power that is residing in them. Now what is dunamis power? Dunamis, it means strength, power, and ability. The root word of it, it comes from the word dynamite. We all know dynamite. Dynamo, in the olden days, for those of us who had bicycles, the lights were powered by the dynamo. So the harder you cycle, the more force you exert on it, the brighter the dynamo becomes. And then you have another root word, which is dynamic. Now, what is this dunamis power? To put it very simply, it means it is inherent power residing in a thing by virtue of its nature. It is power that is already there. It resides in you. Now when this power resides in you, it is there. It is, you could say, it is untapped power. When you begin to tap into it, that's where you see it come forth. When you think of a dynamite, how powerful the explosion is, the damage it does, it depends on the contents of it. What are the minerals that are put in? What are the chemicals that are put in? What are the shrapnels that are put in that brings that damage? The more you put in, the bigger the detonation. So that is the Greek word dunamis. And the famous verse that we all know in Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20, "For he is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ever ask or think, according to the power that works in us." That is dunamis power. That's the first word. The second word is iskouras. Okay, iskouras. In some versions, it's called iskus. This means to be strong, to be mighty, and to be valiant. Now, what is the meaning of this word? Okay, the meaning of it is you are able to sustain the attacks of the enemy. I remember in the early days when I used to watch wrestling, WWF wrestling, when you see them wrestling, you would see one of them pouncing on the other and, giving them a choke hold and hitting them and kicking them and punching them. And when you think the wrestler is down and out, suddenly he rises up. There's energy that comes in. There's power that comes in. Okay? Although most of it was a show, it's interesting when you watch them, just when the cards are down. Now here, iskouras means you're able to sustain the attacks of the enemy. Power is not only to be able to cause damage, but power is the ability to rise up to withstand it and to stand your ground. That's iskouras. The third is kratos. Now what is kratos? Kratos is demonstrated power, not intellectual power. This is not the power of thinking, how powerful your thoughts are. This is demonstrated. You are able to show forth in a tangible way the power that God has put in you. It is a tangible manifestation of that power that you believe in. You know, when you read in Matthew, when Jesus resurrected, the guards, what happened to them? When you read in Matthew 28, it says that the guards were like dead men. Such was the power that Jesus emanated. It was something tangible that the guards lost control of themselves. It was something that was beyond them. They could not even move. God has given us that power to tangibly manifest what we believe. That means you can actually feel something happening. It is raw power. And the fourth is called exousia. What is exousia? Exousia means authority or power. It is jurisdiction over a realm, over an area. It's a right. It's a privilege, be that as it may. It's the ability. This exousia, we know Jesus has given it to all believers, that we have jurisdiction over the things that have been allotted to us. We can stand our ground and say, this is my territory, I'm in charge of it. And when you pronounce that and when you control that territory, you do it with the authority that Jesus has given you. Because Jesus is the one that holds ultimate authority. He says, all authority has been given to me. And that authority Jesus has given to us. So even as we meditate on this word power, I pray that the dunamis becomes real in your life. I pray that the iskouras becomes something that is real to you, that you are able to manifest the tangible power, the kratos power of God, and that in your realm of authority, you're able to exert that exousia, that authority that you are in control by virtue of the Holy Spirit. Be blessed, even as you've heard the second part. Stay tuned for part 3. God bless you all.